We continue to profile the candidates for the upcoming federal election locally. Today I'm joined by Gordan Kubanek, your Green Party candidate. Welcome to the set, Gordan.
Great to be here. I really appreciate you inviting me to the beautiful Cornwall.
Well, Gordan, tell us about who you are and where you're from, and let's hear about who you are.
So my name is Gordan Kubanek. I am living near Kemptville right now. I'm originally from Montreal. My wife and I grew up and were married and worked in Montreal, so we are both bilingual. My wife went to the University of Montreal en français. We have 3 kids. I'm a chemical engineer. I got educated at Queen's and at McGill Graduate School as a chemical engineer. I worked in British Columbia as a pulp and paper engineer. I had a change of heart and I became a high school physics teacher. So I spent most of my career in physics, working in the States, Quebec, Australia, and in the Ottawa region, public and private schools. So I've worked all kinds of things, mostly physics, chemistry, math, because I'm an engineer. In the middle of that, I did consulting for the Department of National Defense with a friend of mine who was a colonel, because I had developed some skills from a course from MIT in a methodology which is very famous if you know anything about the environment, called limits to growth in the 70s, where they looked at the fact that our socioeconomic system is not sustainable. That obviously it was a bit of a click for me becoming a Green candidate 20 years later. So I come at it very much from an engineering numbers perspective. I crunch the numbers and I do the math. And so the question that I ask is a different question than most parties in terms of simply the length of time. I'm looking more at the long-term perspective, not what's going to be better immediately only, but longer term. So my decisions personally and as a candidate are always, I'm personally okay with a little bit of short-term pain as long as I have friends to help me through the bad pain for the long-term gain. So that's where I'm coming from, and that's a bit about me. I have been a beekeeper, and I've had lots of chickens, and I've done the country thing. I live in a small hobby farm near Kemptville right now, and I have like many people, housing is a crisis. I have my daughter and her family living with us to help them out. So a real person, real stuff, and helping each other, family and friends, has been a big part of my life.
So Gordan, when we hear about you, obviously the background's very strong and your reasons for being a Green candidate. Maybe you can explain to our viewers, obviously the Green always seems to be around 4th or 5th in the polls, basically, looking at the top 5 parties.
Sure.
But you come at it from a different perspective based on platform,
absolutely.
and I think you just alluded to that.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain to the viewers out there some of the issues that you see locally and as well as nationally that maybe our viewers should be more in tune with.
Okay, so let's give the example. Let's be quite honest. This election is primarily about what is happening between us and our friends, the Americans. That's the dominant thing. I think many people are responding in fear. There's a flight to safety, sort of like gold, the perception that gold is safe. The smaller parties, Bloc, NDP, and Greens, are losing votes to the Liberals in significant numbers because people feel afraid. So the issue is really about fear. Now, as a Green candidate, what I see is that fear is real, but the problem with fear is it makes us not think as well as we could. And I would say that a lot of our current weakness was caused by failed Liberal policy. So I have been in several debates with Pierre. I live in the riding of Carleton, by the way. I'm about 5K from the border. And when I've debated with Pierre, he points things out about Liberal policies which are often correct without a solution. Like, he's very good on the criticism part, and I give him top honors for that. But, you know, being critical, I'm older, I'm a grandfather. I've discovered that finding what's wrong with, let's say I was to find a fault in you, Todd. I'm presuming you're perfect, but let's pretend that, you know, you had a fault. It would actually be easy. You could find fault with me, that would be easy. But to find a positive, constructive direction is very, very difficult. So the Greens focus on the positive but realistic, what makes the long-term math pay. And I would say to quote John Turner, who was Liberal, that he said, when we signed the free trade agreement in 1980, you remember the 1988 election?
Yep.
So you have gray hair, I have gray hair. It was about sovereignty, so it wasn't about free trade. So what Turner said is our country has been predicated on creating east-west trade, east-west travel, which goes against the sort of economic laws of gravity, but that's the nature of the country. So when we built the country, we built the railroad, no country. We all know that, but that still changes. We stopped trading east-west. when free trade happened, because it is easier and cheaper. That was a mistake. And he said, when we lose the economic levers, we lose the political levers. We're now seeing that result.
Now, I have to ask you, Gord, you're talking about levers.
Yeah.
Your party is the only party that has two people
Yeah,
holding
yeah.
the lever.
Yeah, yeah.
Two leaders.
Correct. So the Green Party is international. So there are Green parties in most democracies of the world. And it started in Germany around 1983. It just so happens I was in Germany in 1983 because I had a girlfriend at the time who was in Germany. And so I was there when it happened, and it was a very big thing at the time. You have to go back to the 80s, that there's equality in power between men and women. So the way they said that we're going to make sure that women have an equal voice is we're going to have co-leaders. Mm-hmm. And so right from the get-go, going back to Germany, because of cultural reasons, they wanted to make sure there's a man and woman having equal say in status and power.
Now, to finish up, Gordan, I want you to tell our viewers exactly why they should vote for you and the Green Party.
There's a famous quote out there that a military friend told me, that the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect different results. We are different. We are significantly different in that we're looking at avoiding things before the disaster happens. So the current disaster we have with free trade was avoidable if you saw the implications 37 years ago. So we're looking at that all the time in the Green Party. So if things aren't working for you, want something really different, vote for the Greens. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordan. Gordan Kubanek, who is your candidate for the Green Party in the upcoming federal election. I'm Todd Alone for your vote on your TV.